Well, hi guys, I'm Michael Hausen. Welcome. I'm glad you are here. So, buy better, sell smart, don't be a passenger. That's the name of the workshop here. And it's also the tagline for my business. And when we're done, you will know how to do all three of those things. So, this means that you're going to be better equipped than 99% of buyers and sellers in your marketplace. And frankly, 90% of realtors too. There is so much money on the line right now with real estate. The market is nuts, and the confusion and the fog can be overwhelming about what to do. So that is the point of what we're going to do here today. So lean in, take some notes, and buckle up. Now, interesting, not everybody who signed up is actually here. And that tells me a lot about you that are. And it also tells you about something about those folks who actually could end up being your competitors. And then a significant percentage of you completed the readiness assessment before the workshop. And it was designed to let you know where you're strong and where you're exposed as far as today's real estate market. If you haven't taken it, when we're done here, I definitely recommend that you should. It's free, it's quick, and it'll be very helpful. And frankly, most realtors fail it, as well as most civilians that fail it first time they take it. So don't be concerned about that. Now, there are people from all over the country, some here in Orange County, but all over the country as well, that registered. Would you do me a favor and put in the chat where you are so I can have an idea who I'm talking to and the time of evening that it is? I would appreciate that. Plano, Texas. Okay, good. Obviously, I'm in Orange County. Orange County, Orange County. Perfect. Okay, that's good. Now, one other thing. If you could please put in here whether you're a potential home buyer or home seller or both. Los Angeles County, the ghetto. Kinda, yeah. Depending on where in Orange or LA County. If you could put if you're a buyer or a seller or both, that will also help me. DJ says buyer. Okay, so thank you. Now, so I presume that you're here for some version of one main goal outcome, right? If you're a buyer, you want the right house at the right price in the timing that's right for you. That's the big goal for you as a buyer. And I call this buying like a pro. And that's the part one of the Haus Advantage tagline, to buy better. And if you're a seller, my guess is you want to get the maximum possible net proceeds within your own timeline constraints. And I call this selling like a pro. That's part two of the tagline, sell smarter. Buy better, sell smarter. And I'm going to show you how to do both, right? And one very important thing, this is for you whether or not you have a realtor right now, if you're going to be hiring one maybe in the future, or if you're not going to hire one at all. This is for everyone, right? So first thing I want to discuss is the scope of the main issue that we're going to be dealing with today. And that is the amount of money that is on the table for you, whether you're buying or selling a home. So this here, by the way, the slides that I'm going to be showing you in the notes, I will send these to you in an email after the workshop is over, okay? So right now, don't know if you're aware, the median priced home across the country is about $445,000. And I want to show you something. So this is a home here in Dallas, literally in the middle of the country. You can see it's right at that price. But when you go on to Zillow and you go all the way down to the bottom, you will see not only their estimate, you will see an estimated price range, an estimated sale range. And on this house, literally median price in the country in Dallas, their estimated sales range is $45,000, okay? And if you're looking to buy or sell a house at the average home price across the country, that's the potential swing at this price range. That's 45 grand that's yours or somebody else's. Now, if you're here in Orange County, it's a little different animal, right? The market here is different. Median price in Orange County is $1.25 million. 3 times the national average. So here's a house in Placentia, at the median Orange County price. And again, if you were to scroll down at this thing, you will see it's a $120,000 swing in value. Again, it's about 10%. And frankly, if you go to any house in America between these ranges, up or down, you will see the exact same swing. It's roughly 10%. Okay. When you're done, put your house in Zillow or the marketplace that you're thinking about moving to, and you're going to see that 10% number 90 to 95% of the time. And definitely know this: if you're a home buyer, every single seller that's aware of this is going to be looking at that top end number. And obviously you're going to be looking at the bottom. And if you're a seller, it'll be the opposite of that. So this is what we're going to be talking about. $45,000, $120,000 on the table. And that's at the average. Most people aren't aware of just how much of a potential gap for winning or losing this money there is. And frankly, this should get your attention. And it should actually terrify you a little bit. And it definitely should help to convince you that in order to attack this, you need to have something more than just good feelings or hope on your side. So this enormous amount of money on the table is the first big obstacle that we've got to confront, because I'm assuming you're not going to want the other fella to end up with all that money. Okay. Now, certainly you should be asking yourself, who the hell is this guy? Why should I listen to you? Great questions, right? Hi, I'm Michael Hausum. I'm a broker in Orange County with Coldwell Banker. I first got into the business right out of school on the mortgage side 35 years ago, this past January. And then about a decade after that, I added the real estate. Previous brokerage, I was the number one agent in the entire company for years. And then at Coldwell, I'm number 3 in my office year to date. Always been in the top 5 in the office. Nationally, always the top 3 to 4%. What this means is, what I'm talking to you about today is the result of decades of experience. None of this stuff is fluff or theory. It is stuff that I'm doing every single day in the marketplace. In fact, just before getting on, I was arranging a showing with another agent on one of my listings. So now, the second thing I wanted to quickly discuss is this don't be a passenger, the meaning of the don't be a passenger name for the workshop. You might be wondering, buy better, sell smarter, I get that. Don't be a passenger. What does that mean for me? So for me, this is actually the most important part of everything that I'm going to talk to you about. And I'm going to illustrate it by telling you 2 quick stories. So let me show you this here. So see this house here, right? Looks good. I thought so too. House was in Costa Mesa, right at Fairview and the 405 freeway. And this house was listed for $1,350,000. And I printed out, this was a couple months ago, printed out the MLS info on it. Exceptionally upgraded, boasting beautiful curb appeal, beautifully remodeled kitchen, the inviting living room, stylishly upgraded, a defined, beautiful outdoor entertaining space. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to own this turnkey home. Now that sounds amazing, doesn't it? So my clients and I went and saw it, and this place, it was a total bait and switch. None of the furniture was the furniture that you saw there in the pictures. It was awful. The upgrades, old and tired. Turnkey, more like turn the lock, throw away the key. The house was a complete mess, dirty, junk everywhere. When I was in the house, I actually pulled up my phone and checked the MLS printout to make sure that I was in the right house. And on top of it, all of that, it was an active substance abuse recovery home. Every single room had multiple bunk beds. There were clothes everywhere. It was a business. It was so awful, my clients couldn't wait to get out of the house. The disconnect between what we thought we were going to see and what we actually saw was like a 6-figure marketing mistake. But this is the important part for the don't be a passenger piece. It was listed by one of the top agents in Orange County. In fact, one of the top agents in the country. I printed out her little marketing brochure page from her website, and I'm going to read some of this to you. I don't want to tell you the city. It's not about her. Number one realtor in this particular city for 24 straight years. Number one resale agent in Orange County the last 5 years. $2.7 billion in lifetime sales. And $275 million closed last year alone. So this is a total rock star agent that listed this piece of garbage. Think for a second about the homeowner. They hired one of the very top agents in the country. Very few agents sell as many houses as they do. And this seller assumed that they were in the best of hands, right? But what was really happening is that all their money was just pouring out of that house down the street. They had delegated control to an expert and were getting killed. Certainly had no idea that it happened, okay? They were a passenger, totally blind to the fact that they were getting driven off a financial cliff, okay? Put the word me in the chat if you thought that hiring an expert realtor would solve all your problems and everything would work out just fine. This has been something that you've thought of. If I just hire the right realtor, everything will be great. Okay. Okay. So when I say don't be a passenger, this is one of the things that I'm talking about. Now, another story quickly. This is on the buyer side. Okay. It's a passenger warning as well. So last fall, I met this sweet young couple at an open house. Listing of mine in Costa Mesa. And within a couple of minutes, the wife told me that they were working with her mom, who had her license and had sold a lot of houses. And they were the sweetest couple, okay? Afterwards, the mom called me and actually joked that her kids told her that they fired her and were going to hire me. Obviously, she was joking. So then she starts asking me questions. And it was like a full-on coaching session. Marketplace analysis, how to write a compelling offer, how to think about contingencies, stuff like this. And then over the next couple of weeks, she actually called me a couple of more times. So I looked her up. Turns out, had a license, got it a long time ago, lots of sales in her background, but she hadn't sold a house in a decade. Decade's a long time. Would you ever hire a surgeon that hadn't done a surgery in a decade? Or a lawyer that hadn't tried a case in years? No. But here these nice kids were, hiring someone they trusted, her mom, having no idea that she had no idea what she was doing. And it totally broke my heart. This woman's a total sweetheart, but with the 125 grand or so that would be on the table in the price range they were looking at, she was not the person that should have been handling the biggest financial event of their lives. Again, these guys were passengers, innocently, totally blind to the fact that they were being driven by somebody that hadn't been in a car in a decade. So this is the huge reason why Haus Advantage exists and why I'm doing what I'm doing here, because these are not unique outliers. I see this kind of thing happening every single day. Good people that have no idea that they're passengers in a car that's actually going to end up harming them. So this is the second obstacle to overcome, to make sure that you are not an innocent passenger. The first obstacle was to make sure that all the money on the table in front of you isn't lost. And then the second one is to make sure that you're not the passenger. So let me show you my solution to these two obstacles. So not only can you know how to buy better and to sell smarter, but so that also you won't be a passenger. And it's the Haus Advantage Roadmap. Let me show you this. Okay, by the way, when I meet privately with buyers and sellers here in Orange County to interview for the job to be their agent, to show them my roadmap and strategies, I tell them to think of the conversation like a job interview. I'm the potential employee, and frankly, no matter what you do agent-wise, this is important for you to understand because many agents do not work this way and you need to understand the correct way. You as the buyer or the seller are the employer. You're the principal and the agent works for you. And so what I say to them is what I'm doing here, showing them all this stuff, is what I would do if I got the job to help you. So frankly, that's exactly the way I'm going to frame this for the rest of our brief chat today. Okay, so what you're looking at here, I've divided the home buying or home selling journey into 3 distinct stages. And it's intentionally very simple, and each section flows naturally into the next. Buying or selling a house, frankly, isn't rocket science or brain surgery. And what this is here is a map. And the first section here is preparation. This is where we make the move ready plan. The key actions in the move ready plan section are laying out a timeline and building the strategy for the remainder of the journey. And there's one obstacle that we have to overcome in stage 1, and that's this here. I call it costly confidence. Costly confidence is something I see all the time. In fact, I oftentimes see it when people fill out the registration form for my workshop. It's when people assume that because they've hired somebody or they themselves know what should happen based upon their experience or knowledge or whatever. But costly confidence can get expensive very fast if it's not the right plan. Then stage 2, stage 2 is where the action starts, and it's called market navigation. The key actions here are reading and understanding the marketplace itself, and then applying the strategies and plans that were put together in stage 1. And the obstacle here, I call it market drift. Market drift is the super common error of when you're reacting to the marketplace or new headlines or emotions or external pressure from other people involved or things that you're hearing. You don't want to drift off course in your journey, which is why market navigation is the key. It keeps you on course no matter the obstacles that might pop up along the way. And then stage 3 is the final steps here. So this is stage 3. It's where the journey concludes. For you as a buyer, this starts when you're actually ready to write an offer. You've identified the house, you're ready to write an offer. For sellers, it's when somebody has got an offer for you. And this stage I call transaction control. And this solves the obstacle of closing pressure. Here, closing pressure is when you miss important details or be tempted, if you're tempted to change up the plan to try to make a deal work, right? And the actions that we use to keep transaction control is negotiating the contract itself and how to do that, and then managing any issues that might arise prior to closing. And at the end of this, and this is the whole key here, at the end of this is the goal. For you as a buyer, that's when you get your keys. Or for you as a seller, that's when you get your money, the wire transfer that comes in, right? The goal here, this is the reason for everything that we're talking about. Now, if I were you, maybe at this point you're thinking, great, you got a plan, you got a system, it's all organized, sounds great. But what is going to be done? And how is this going to get me the results I need and want? What's different about this, right? In California, there's 300,000 some licensed agents. That's the perfect question. And any realtor that you're interviewing, including, there was just actually a realtor in here in the Zoom a second ago. That's the perfect question that you should ask any realtor that you might interview. What is different about what you do, and how exactly is it going to help me better than anybody else that I can talk to? Okay, so there are 5 buyer and seller strategies that are the center of my roadmap plan. And each one of these strategies is designed to confront a specific challenge that you as a buyer or seller are going to have to overcome if you want to be successful. And in identifying these potential challenges up front and then the solutions to them up front, this is how we increase the chances of getting the best outcome on our way down to our goal. Because here's the thing, it is very rare to actually know which is the most important challenge that you're going to have to overcome for any home sale or purchase. You just have no idea. Nobody actually knows on any particular house or transaction where the perfect outcome is going to come from. Buyers don't, sellers don't, realtors don't. In some cases, the person on the other side of the table, they may actually themselves not know what is the most important thing to them. Years ago, my son, this is a great story. He was selling his motorcycle. I think he was a junior or senior in high school. Selling his motorcycle, guy shows up to buy it. Jack runs out and he tells me that he wasn't going to discount it. $2,500, Papa, take it or leave it. The guy can go home. A couple minutes later, he pops back in and he shows me a stack $2,100 bills. I'm like, Jack, what happened to take it or leave it? So he explained to me that the guy walks up to him, slowly and theatrically counts out 20 Benjamins, 18, 19, 20, and hands them over. And Jack just kind of reaches out and grabs them. And that was it. The idea of all that cash in one big stack totally overwhelmed Jack's certainty about his selling price. This same principle can often apply in a real estate deal on both sides. The strategies I'm going to show you here in just a second are the home purchase or sale version of putting a bunch of $100 bills in front of a teenager. And the key is, excuse me, can't be random, can't be accidental. And this is the advantage to having a roadmap and thinking through the various strategies in advance so that you're prepared for whatever little detours or surprises that might come up. And I call them ingredients in a recipe. That's the analogy that I like. And just like with any recipe, the quality of the ingredients determines the quality of the result, and all the ingredients matter. You don't skip ingredients in a recipe and expect the same result. So let me show you here. So these are the challenges and the solutions and the strategies. There's 5 each. 5 on the buying side, 5 on the selling side. And then for each of them, you've got, this is the particular, in each one of these, this is the strategy, that's the challenge that it overcomes, okay? And then a little description of each of those. And if you've been following me on social media at all, you'll have seen in the last week or two, I've gone through each one of these on the buyer side and the seller side, explaining how they work, what they are, and what the whys are. Frankly, I'd love to go through all of them in detail. I love this stuff. My wife would shoot me and you would hate me before we got halfway through. But I am going to go through a couple of them, one each on the buyer and the seller side. And then there's one here that's common to both. And frankly, it's my favorite and it's the most effective. So let's start with the buyer side. And the number one here is buyer staging. Here. So on the buyer side, strategy number one, I call buyer staging. So this house right here, Chris and Rachel bought this house in Lake Forest. And as we were looking at it, we found out from the listing agent there was another competitor and there was a multiple offer situation. And for most of you that are thinking about buying, that's the big scare. Finding the right house and then finding out you're going to have to compete for it. And then we found out something even potentially worse. The other buyer was an all-cash buyer. So let me ask this. How would you feel if you found out the house you wanted was being pursued by an all-cash buyer and you weren't all cash? You probably wouldn't feel great about it. If you're like most people, I hear that all the time. But we changed nothing about our approach. We heard that it was a competitive buyer. We heard it was an all-cash buyer. It didn't matter to us, right? All 3 stages of my roadmap are designed to help keep the plan front and center, no matter what pops up along the way. And here's what happened. Not only did Chris and Rachel get the house, their sales price was less than the offer price for that all-cash buyer. The seller took our financed lower offer. How did we do this? It was the strategy of buyer staging in this case that made all the difference. So let me explain it to you. Buyer staging directly confronts the seller's perception, what the seller thinks of you and your agent. And the key part of this is that all the work for buyer staging, that happens way before the offer is presented. It's way before the house is ever even found. Chris and Rachel and I put buyer staging into play months earlier. The result of it is that an effective buyer staging makes you to be the buyer that the seller wants. If you can get a seller excited and positive about you and your agent, that completely changes the circumstances for when the offer presentation itself happens. Let me ask you this. How many of you have heard of home staging? Lots of people have. It's when a seller takes a vacant home, puts furniture and accessories in everything else in the home, nobody's living in it, and they do it to elevate the experience of the house, to make it easier for a buyer to have an increased emotional reaction to it, so they will pay more. That's the whole goal of home staging. Well, buyer staging flips that upside down. It's what we do to get a seller to want you to be their buyer, to get connected with you. That's the whole goal of it. I'm sure you've heard of this idea of buyer writing a personal letter to a seller. That is not what I'm talking about. Buyer letters are kind of a thing of the past, and they turned into, hey, would you please take less for the house because we really love it so much? And the front yard reminds me of my Grammy and Grandpa's house who passed away, and we'd really love to live there. This is not that. That's a last minute Hail Mary hope and prayer tactic. That is not how you buy a house like a pro. So the details. There are two parts to buyer staging. Responsibilities for you as the buyer and also for your agent. Because sometimes a home sale is more than just about an offer price. With Chris and when this house that I was telling you about in Lake Forest certainly was. Sometimes selling a house can be personal. Some sellers do care about who's going to be buying and living in their home. You got to check that box. A letter isn't going to do it. It's also about reducing risk for a seller. Are you the buyer that they want to take the house off the market for? Are there potential red flags? Or are there signals being sent that it looks like it's going to be smooth sailing? This is another aspect of it. A seller wants to know that you as a buyer have all of the ducks in a row. You ideally, and this is the whole setup, you want the agent and the seller knowing that you are their dream buyer. And they also would prefer to have the buyer represented by somebody that knows what they're doing, and they won't be a nightmare. No listing agent wants to be a babysitter for the other side. And I've heard this so many times over the years. I'll get a call. Hey, just so you know, the other agent on this doesn't really, if it's a competitive offer situation, literally agents have told me this. The other agent really doesn't know what they're doing, or they seem like they're going to be a total pain in the ass, so you guys are getting the house. Hitting all of these various potential hot buttons, that takes planning and execution if you want the maximum impact. It's what we did with Chris and Rachel, and it turns out that all of the things that we did turned out to be super important to the listing agent and the seller. And we had no idea at the time, no idea at all. We found out later, but it's how they ended up taking less money from us than the all cash buyers. Frankly, I still laugh about it. I think about that buyer's agent that had the all cash buyer. The deal closed, they pulled it up on their phone and they saw the final price and they're like, how did that happen? My guys offered more. My guess is they probably thought it was some kind of insider deal or something fishy. No, I've never met that listing agent before. There was nothing like that. It was that Chris and Rachel were playing a totally different game than they and their clients were playing. They were playing chess. Chris and Rachel were playing checkers. That's what you want. That's why buyer staging is essential to buy better. Okay, now let's talk about a seller strategy. I want to ask you a question. Who should pick the listing price on your home? DJ says Realtor. Whose responsibility is it to determine the asking price? Who do you think? Me. Very good. So strategy number 2 for sellers, we're going to talk about this for a quick second. Owner sets the price. My answer is your asking price as a seller should be chosen by you. Now, this may be something you've never heard of before, yet I think it is an essential strategy to get the most amount of money for your home. And this strategy here addresses the challenge that you face as a seller of value uncertainty. Like Sharon, you just said you do your homework and your comps. Comps are great, but that tells you nothing about the current buyer pool. That tells you what a previous seller was willing to accept for maybe a similar house and what that buyer was willing to pay. That doesn't necessarily translate into your house right now. And that's your biggest challenge. You don't know what any particular buyer is going to be willing to pay for your house. Of course, you want them to pay more, but there's no way to know what's going on in their head. And the common and normal thing to happen here, the overwhelming majority of time, is that the listing agent is relied upon to suggest the listing price of the home. When we're done here, Google this topic and you're going to get page after page of realtor posts that are saying, hey, if a seller's not going to list it at the price that I tell them, I won't work with them. Or you'll say, hey, the agent should pick the listing price. I mean, just tons of that on YouTube and everywhere else. And I think it's a terrible idea. You should pick the price of the home, and the agent's job is to go out and get it for you. Does the car salesman tell the dealership owner what they think a car should sell for? Of course not. 2 main reasons why you want to be the one to decide and not to delegate it. Number 1 is incentives. The real estate agent wants to sell it fast. They want their commission right away so they can send out a sold in 3 days marketing flyer and post about it on Instagram. But them getting a quick commission and having killer marketing content, that may not be your highest priority. The only priorities that should influence the pricing on your home are your priorities. And then the number 2 reason to not let an agent pick the price, I call blowing smoke. Oftentimes, agents are going to pitch a likely sale price in order to tell a seller something they would like to hear. And then that turns into a game. Wait a second. That agent said that you could get X for the house? Ridiculous. I could get you Y dollars more than that. You need to hire me. Everybody there is just guessing. They're making stuff up. And I don't want you to play that game. Nobody knows what a house is going to sell for. Guessing or blowing smoke doesn't change that. Now, in my opinion, the agent does have a responsibility here. So don't miss this part. The agent's responsibility is to have a system to educate you on your marketplace. What are the prices doing? What are inventory levels doing? How does your house fit within the current homes on the market? What is the velocity of the marketplace? They need to help you with all of that stuff. And once you understand it, then you add in your own timing needs, and then you pick the price yourself. Bottom line, your house, your price. Let me give you an example of this. So this here, Ray and Idell Slicker hired me to sell their parents' house here in Costa Mesa. Sticking with this strategy, they picked the listing price after I had helped them understand what their market niche was. Little 3-bedroom homes in Costa Mesa. And frankly, their listing price was like $100,000 more than I thought it should list for. I didn't say anything about it, right? We went with their number. They're the boss. I work for them. And it turns out they were right. We had multiple offers. We got just below the asking price. If I had opened my big mouth and convinced them to take my number, probably would have cost them $70,000 or $80,000. This house, this sale is a perfect example of how this strategy can put more money in your pocket as a seller. Now, I want to quickly talk about one more. Strategy number 5, and this is for buyers and sellers. So I don't know if you noticed that. Strategy number 5 is on both sides. It is my very, very favorite. I could spend the next 5 hours telling you stories about how this works. And it is to do your offer presentation in person. How many of you have ever heard, you that are in the chat, how many of you have heard of doing the offer in person? Put the word me in the chat if you've heard of doing an offer in person. Nope, never. DJ, that tells me that you're young. The overwhelming majority of offers nowadays are done by email. The buyer sends off a PDF to the listing agent. They discuss it with the seller, and then the seller emails back an acceptance or a counteroffer. Sometimes it's a day or two of back and forth or more. But this is not the way it used to be. Back when I first got in business in the early 90s, you needed written authorization to fax an offer. DJ, you probably don't even know what a fax is. It used to be that the vast majority of all of these were done in person. 2 quick stories about this, listing side and a selling side. Last fall, did an in-person offer on my listing. Again, this is another house in Costa Mesa. Okay, this is Richard's house here. Richard's my seller, the buyer agent and his 2 clients, a sweet young couple. We were sitting just left of the kitchen counter doing the offer. So the buyer agent had never heard of doing in-person offers before. He was totally game. The whole thing went perfectly. We got it done in about 15 minutes. And we could tell that our counter offer was more than they wanted to pay. Afterwards, the buyer agent told me it was $20,000 more than their hard ceiling that they had set up before the meeting. Okay? But obviously there had been some private discussion. Richard and I were sitting here. They're inside talking about it. Obviously they accepted it. But then everything is all done and finished. The husband, the buyer's agent, and I were standing out here on the driveway. After the whole thing was done, we're just chatting for a few minutes. And we realized that his wife and my seller were still inside the house. So we all walked back in. Richard and his wife were crying, and it was obvious they had just finished up a hug. She was emotional because her dream of having her kids running around a big backyard had just started to come true. Richard was emotional because he didn't want some investor to buy his house as some sort of paper napkin money play. He wanted human beings. That's what went down. So think about the couple of things that happened here doing this in person. Number 1, it was 15 minutes and the deal was inked. Momentum, good feelings, maximized. Perfection. And that extra 20 grand in the moment, that would have never happened if we were just emailing counter offers back and forth over the course of a couple of days. And then the real life emotions, 3-dimensional in-person interactions instead of DocuSign PDFs traded by robots. As a seller, you want the buyer making their money decision in what might be their new house because you want to start things off as good as possible. I call it cancellation insurance. That's what we established. We got more money, we saved time, and we got a free policy of cancellation insurance. So I'll tell you another one real quick. So this house here, this is in Orange. A couple of years ago, Scott and Danielle wanted to buy this house in Orange. And we'd set up an in-person offer meeting with the listing agent, and she was concerned about bringing their little kids. I said, no way, bring the kids to the meeting. And we sat right here. Their one kid was sitting on the ground here playing with toys, and the other 8-month-old was in a little kid carrier. That's where the whole thing went down, right there. Now, this case, The back and forth with the listing agent was getting a little rancorous. It was very uptight. Seller was there. Seller didn't say a word the entire time back and forth. So we're back in another room while the agent and the seller were discussing what I thought was going to turn into a stalemate. And then the seller walks into the meeting. She hadn't said a word. And then she explained what was going on. She was the successor trustee selling the home for the family trust. Her parents had passed away. She told us that in the middle of all of this, we had no idea, she called her brother. And they decided to bypass all of that back and forth and just accept the initial offer. About $50,000 less than where we were stuck in counteroffers. $50,000. Turns out, as she was sitting there, she'd realized that Scott and Danielle's kids were the same age that she and her brother were when their folks had bought the house. You can't say, I just got chills. I still think about this story. She and her brother were the same age when her folks bought that house 60 years earlier. Now, would that 50 grand have been on the table had we not been there in person? Not a chance. Now, does this happen every time? Of course it doesn't happen every time. Sometimes you can't even get a meeting, but oftentimes it does. And that is why you always have to put all of the ingredients into the mix to get the recipe right. In my experience, in-person offers are exceptionally rare. You got to find somebody that's my age or older that has ever even done it. But basically, nobody puts this into practice in their business as a priority. And as far as I'm concerned, that is money potentially left on the table with every single home sale or home purchase. Now, think about this for a second, what I just said. This is an essential strategy for me, and it has been for years. I just told you these two stories. Yet, it almost never happens. That is money lost by somebody on almost every single sale that happens. When you're interviewing a realtor, ask them about doing the offer in person. Hey, so what do you think about doing offers in person? So funny. They're either going to look at you like you just started speaking ancient Greek, or they're going to quickly tell you that nobody does that. And that's a problem because this is a powerful strategy for buyers and sellers. Frankly, I could tell you, I could flip back over to this thing here, and I could tell you story after story focused on every single one of these strategies, how one or the other of them made a big difference, or how a combination of them turned out to be super powerful and important. And a key point about all of those stories would be, I never find out what was the thing until way later. And up front, you're never going to know. It's impossible to know which is going to make the biggest difference or which combination. Sometimes none of them will. But when you stack them all up is when you increase the chance of one of them at least really hitting home. And I can tell you this, none of your competition or any of the parties that are across the table from you are going to be running any kind of program like this. This is buying or selling like a pro. This is how you buy better and sell smarter. And then understanding it and being in control of the process yourself from start to finish to make sure that it's done correctly, that's how you do it by not being a passenger. So hopefully, the thing you've taken away from tonight is that there are too many opportunities in this entire real estate journey that you can unknowingly leave money on the table or make mistakes, but also that there are solutions to these problems that work. The vast majority of your competitors in the marketplace aren't aware of this. They have no idea or no plan for what to do next. So for you, there's two kind of ways that you can go. You can take the info that I've given you. You can figure it out on your own, do a little trial and error, try to buy better or sell smarter on your own. And many people have done this, certainly not impossible. Or you can get my help. And if you would like me to help you, there's two options for that. If you're here in Orange County and you don't have an agent and you would like to interview me for the job to be your broker, we can set up a chat about your plan, what you're looking for, to see if it would make sense for us actually to get together and meet. That's option number one. The second option is my Next Step Advantage program. So the Next Step Advantage program is for you if you're not in Orange County, if you are in Orange County, and if you already have an agent, or you already know the agent you're gonna hire, or maybe you don't even want an agent at all, but you want help to make sure that you do it right. So with the Advantage program, you're gonna have all the tools, the entire roadmap, the strategies, the tactics that all my brokerage clients get, but then also private coaching and advice from me throughout the remainder of your journey. I just won't be your agent. And what I can do, I can send you the offer document, which explains all of the details and the pricing of that program. Then we can also book a call if you like to walk you through it. So what that looks like then, if you would like help from me, you've basically got two options. Number one is potentially you interview me to be your broker, right? And this is for OC residents only. I can't help you if you're not in Orange County. Or the other option is the Advantage program. This is for the entirety of the USA. This is for maybe you already do have an agent or not. Okay, this is private coaching and independent help. In both cases, it's the exact same methodology in the system. It's just a different delivery system. Now, you don't need to decide anything now. I do limit the number of people I work with for both of these programs so I can perform at the highest level. So here's what you do is email me back when you get the email summary of this, either the word broker or the word advantage, and we can talk further. Now, any questions that you've got? I promise there'd be a Q&A afterwards. I went a little longer than I thought I would. Yes, what you want to do is you're going to get an email from me after this, DJ. You can also send it to mph@houseadvantage.com. Broker is for OC interview, or Advantage is for the education, coaching, non-broker. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Check your email in a short bit. You're going to get notes and summary from me. And later tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to send the replay off as well. Okay. Thanks for being here.
I've lived in 10 different states, and so I've conducted a lot of real estate transactions, and I have to tell you the finest real estate professional that I've ever run across is Michael Hausen. He's helped me with 5 different transactions. The one that really comes to mind is a service that I'm not sure you're going to find from anyone. I was needing to sell an investment condo that I had in Boston while living in California. He not only helped me find a local broker there, but he also helped me with the kind of working with him remotely to get a quick sale at a good price. Just unbelievable service, and can't recommend him enough. I've referred him to at least 3 other people, and he's done a great job for them. And I think of him as the real estate whisperer.
So as a first-time home buyer, I felt pretty overwhelmed and didn't exactly know where to start. Michael was a great advisor in helping me navigate the path from choosing the right agent to dealing with a mortgage broker, all the way through closing on a home. He really helped me understand the process and how it should work, and the things that I need to be doing and look out for, and also the things that I should avoid. And having him as my advisor, essentially my consultant, and not just a realtor, was incredibly helpful. And I recommend that anyone doing a real estate transaction would greatly benefit from having him on your team.
A few years ago, my wife and I made the move from Los Angeles to Arizona, and we needed to sell our house in a fairly quick manner. Michael helped us through that process in just a tremendously wonderful way. He walked us through the way the market was. He helped us balance the offers we were being given. He helped us set up our home for sale to get the most we could from it. And most importantly, he never pressured us to actually take any deals and would always help us consider the pros and cons of every offer we were given. On the flip side of that, as we moved to Phoenix, he helped us remotely, first by finding us a wonderful realtor here in Phoenix, but also during that process, advising us as we were buying our home. I can't recommend anyone more highly than I do Michael. He really was tremendous on both sides of our real estate transactions, on selling our home, as well as helping us buy a home in Phoenix where he really wasn't getting anything out of it other than the joy of helping a former or current or forever client. I highly recommend him. Thank you.